Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 25th episode of our first run through House of Light on YouTube, playing as the archaeologist and getting ready for our first salon. So, one of the challenges that I ran into is I think I was under the impression that weaving and knot working could be applied to preservation, and it can't. So I have actually probably created some problems for myself today. But I'm not going to let that get in the way. So there's definitely going to be some work that I need to do just because I have like a few little guideposts for myself. Weaving and knot working was actually one that I had made a note for, so I want to make sure that this doesn't cause sort of the whole house of cards to fall. However, I don't see a lot of point in letting that get in the way of the playthrough. I mean, in the end, if I don't get to put everything in the places that I want, so be it. But we are going to wait for the evening, though, so we can start supper, and of course, the longer we wait, the more elements of the soul we have to work with. However, as I did say, because I was sort of counting on being able to use weaving and knot working in preservation, my opportunity for additional elements of the soul is limited. Which, again, is not going to be a huge issue, but in an ideal situation, I would have been able to get another 2 elements of the soul, depending on what the draws were. That's probably not going to happen now. Realistically, I'll maybe be able to get an extra Arab, I would guess, maybe from Desires and Dissolutions. And I think the rest that I've got queued up really is about health. But we'll make do. So I'm just going to wait for the bells and birds. All right. Dusk, night from day, silver from gold, the vesper hour, when the priests would honor the rising of the evening star, Meniscate. Bring light back to the mirrors where once Lady Ava held court. Here one might have lunch in the afternoon or supper in the evening. A good host will provide at least one first course, one main course, one side dish, and one pudding. So here we go, supper. So keep an eye on the salon as it is in progress. Oh, it doesn't say about the extra soul card. So, who are we inviting? Dr. Serena Blackwood, one-time librarian of Hush House, one-time librarian of the Invisible Serapeum in Alexandria, and currently what exactly? Serena is closed-mouthed, but I know that she has worked with St. Ronwin Trust. Signor Corso Reverte, manuscript hunter, legacy scavenger, mercenary. Many would question his ethics, few would deny his acuteness. Lieutenant Arthur Thomas Moore, hero, pilgrim, traitor. He'll always be a soldier, but never again can he be only a soldier. Mr. Fraser Strathcoyne, philanthropist, collector, former librarian, a complicated man, but not a cruel one. And Mademoiselle Olympie Bichet, essayist, illustrator, critic, editor of the Carisham Review. We are serving cold pheasant with grape salad. This was the sort of dish you might expect to find for a late supper after the theater or halfway through a ball. Arbella Boxer. Lambic Bruxellende, distilled from apples in the oldest forest of the western continent. Marinated roast beef, but since we have learnt from all vaporing France to eat the ragouts as well as to dance, we're fed up with nothing but vain complaisance. Oh, the roast beef of Old England and Old English roast beef. Henry Fielding, the Grub Street Opera. Roscragan whiskey, the favourite tipple of Sir David Green, 8th librarian of Hush House. Pickled pilchards, an acquired and unforgettable taste. And Schloss Jannings, a dry, aromatic white wine. Roscragan whiskey, the favourite tipple of Sir David Green, 8th librarian of Hush House. Magnificent roast potatoes, it's the dripping that elevates it. Roast potatoes are a feast for the senses, but the dripping deepens the flavour profile, makes the experience continue through the machinery of the mouth to become a kind of journey. Dandelion wine, homemade flower wine, and orange jumble. They should be the size of teacup rims and should curl their crisp edges, faintly pink as the underneath of a young mushroom. Lady Jekyll, Kitchen Essays. My guests take their places for supper. I will have to interrupt this a couple of times to reset, but I'll try and run through this as far as I can. A formal meal. Lunch and supper last longer than less formal salons, allowing an extra interaction between your guests. Okay, so I'm actually going to make a note of that. So I can do it lunch, and then I can get a little more time. As it was, we still wanted to restore the elements of the soul, so I don't feel too bad about how this turned out. And of course, we want the timer to go as long as possible so I can restore the various elements of the soul. I believe we are just waiting on a shaft now in 30 seconds, 29 seconds. And we'll still keep talking with Denzel just so that I can generate some memories, because I am going to need something to take overnight. Lively conversation. Say something witty. Add a shaft card. All right, so now I'm going to feel very nervous. Olympe and Corso commiserate about the difficulty of getting the ink azimil out of one's dreams, grumbling that one's sleep stays silver for months. Lesson, Inks of Revelation. Conversation ebbs and flows. Raise a complex question. Add a whist card. So we don't have whist. We also don't have an opportunity to get whist from the Tree of Wisdom, so this is one that we'll miss for sure. Got our shaft back, so we have all of our elements of the soul. This is the time where I want to sit on every single element of the soul that I have, because we don't yet know how the rest of the salon's going to go. He does a lot with silence, this man. Invite a challenge. Add a metal card. All right, so that's the only metal that we can get, so we're hoping that that doesn't come up again. Night has fallen. Dawn will come soon. 20 seconds before we can save a memory. Fraser and Serena speak of Antaios, who might have been a child of name emanations of the flint and wheel. Fraser wonders why, if Antaios' forebears were immortal, they did not suffer the urge to devour him. Serena provokingly asks when he thinks that the crime of the sky first became a crime. Sorry, let me try reading that again. So Fraser and Serena speak of Antaios, who might have been a child of name emanations of the flint and wheel. Fraser wonders why, if Antaios' forebears were immortal, they did not suffer the urge to devour him. Serena provokingly asks when he thinks the crime of the sky became a crime. Lesson, Stone Stories. What next? Conversation ebbs and flows. Spice up the conversation. Add an Arab card. All right, we're doing pretty good. He does a lot with silence, this man. So I think I'm going to try and keep the... Well, sorry. If I take a look at the lessons that we're going to get. So we have Inks of Revelation, which has Lantern and Moth. We have Stone Stories, which has Nectar and Scale. So... technically, the Hindsight or the Fear would be more helpful in this case. Let's also commit Denzel to opening the Gloomy Stair. This has long been a holy place, but the Madrigad has withdrawn her favor now, and a chillness waits here where dawn will not touch it. Only once it is pacified can I safely pass. Okay, so not much in terms of memories that I can keep, so we'll just hang on to the storm. Serena and Corso gloomily dispute the poet Cal's menacing aphorism, "A star is a pinprick, but the sun is a wound." Corso believes it presages the later division of the sun. Serena suggests it anticipates a horrific ending to the vagabond's prophesied pilgrimage up to the glory. Hieroglyphics. What next? We need another... Oh, another Shapt card. Nice! Okay, so we didn't need to worry about the Tryst, but this worked well. I think there's one more after this. Fraser and Corso debate Medusa's riddle, what is not seen? Corso gestures nonchalantly at his cigarette. If it's not seen, the hours don't know where it happened. In the end, it's all about provenance. Pentiments and precursors. Got a couple of quiet members of the salon. Conversation ebbs and flows. Say something witty, add a shapt card. We don't have a shapt card available. We don't have a way of getting one, so unfortunately the extra element doesn't really do that much for me, but there we have it. And it's a storm. My guests leave happy. You've gained an additional potent memory. So we don't have a whole lot of time of finishing off winter, but I will probably finish with a bang because we do have a few fun lessons to learn, and we do have the storm, which means we might be able to take advantage of the availability of fishermen. But that was our first salon, and that's roughly how it goes. So for those of you that like the lore of the game as well as the kind of the individual characters, there's quite a bit that you can learn by reading the descriptions in between. But here we go. We've got Stone Stories, Inks of Revelation. A lively salon. You've held a lively salon. This is a marker to remind you that you can't hold another one till the next season. We've got Satisfaction, A Curious Hunch, Pentiments and Precursors, and Pyroglyphics. Okay, so on its own, there's not a whole lot that we can do because we have all of our elements of this. Like, basically, it's going to take some work for me to get my elements of the soul to actually level these things up. So for instance, Pyroglyphics. Right now I can't do anything with that lesson because we don't have any Forge or Lantern. Pentiments and Precursors, similar story. Actually, I guess with that one we can use the... Ooh, that one is actually available. So let's take Pentiments and Precursors. We can use the Satisfaction with that, and then we'll just apply the core. Excuse me. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. Excuse me. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms if you haven't already committed it. Okay, so Stone Stories is one that we don't yet have, so we can commit that right away. Now my ideal would be that we can take Inks of Revelation. We can boost that up to at least level 2. And then Pyroglyphics is a little bit more of a question because I'm not quite sure where we're going with that. But so Inks of Revelation I can do because we have the Tryst. The only thing that we need is some kind of lantern memory. Actually, with that in mind, let's bring... I could bring Denzel in, but let's actually see what I'm going to do with the fisherman. So if I hire a fisherman, we get 2 moon and 1 sky. So on the sky front, so with the storm, we can get 4 for that, so that'll bring us up to 5. We have the astrolabe, so that'll bring us up to 6. I believe we also have blue crown tea left over. So I think that's good for another 2, if I'm not mistaken. Might want to make sure that I actually have the tea, though. There it is. Okay. Okay, so we're up to 8. I don't really think there's any sky food. Well, okay, there's stuff like the I'm not gonna give a raw pheasant to the... Okay, actually, never say never. If it's the difference between being able to get somewhere or not, I might give the raw pheasant to the to the fisherman, but... And I think that's it, because again, we don't have the Foss to work with. So we can get up to 8 with Sky. Now the real question is, do I actually have anything that requires it? Because, of course, the other option is I try and do something with Heart with Mrs. Kill. Oh, that is a shame. Okay. So this would be a time where I actually do feed the Squawkphologia. If I feed the... or I can do the Windproud Gallery. The catch with this one is I feel like with Denzel I can already get up here. So let's just see. Denzel... So 2 Forge... So 6, 7, 8. Yeah, no, it's just way too easy to get. Okay. So yeah, I think I am going to open up the Squawkphologia, as silly as it seems to give a raw pheasant to the fisherman. So this means I don't need to hire Denzel as a source of food, or as a source of memories. So assistance from a fisherman in winter. When the storms close the seas, the fishermen will offer their services for $1 a day. Fishermen in this part of the world have a reputation as smugglers and worse than smugglers. Those days are past, mostly, and mostly they just catch pilchards now, but they still remember the words spoken in silence to the moon and the sea. I could encourage my assistant, work with them for a little while, exalt them, or I could just listen to whatever they might have to say. Talk about the weather, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. Okay. So another thing that I might want to think about is how am I going to, so basically how am I going to spend the day? What do I want to try and get done? So let's take a tryst. I want to set this aside here because that we can use to level up Inks of Revelation. And it seems to me the first thing that I want to do here is use Sixpence to bring back either Metal or Shapt, and that will allow me to potentially level up Pyroglyphics. So, and if nothing else, bringing back one of these will also allow me to make some money. So Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. Now, we also have some books to catalog. I do have the danger, of course, that these are books that are going to sort of corrupt my elements of the soul. But the thing is, if I just sit passively on them forever, I'm not going to make any kind of progress. So the question is, do I have something better that I can do with the health or the tryst tonight? The health, I think there's an argument for me to go to the garden and get some more Blue Crown, given how useful the Blue Crown tea is. For the rest of it, though, not so sure. We'll see. All right. So actually, you know what? I'm going to get that Blue Crown right away because I don't see a situation where I use the health differently. So the gardens of Hush House hold plants with many virtues for those with the wisdom to recognize them. I'll also set aside another tryst to be able to level up. So I may not have the memory that I need to level up Inks of Revelation, so I'll set aside a tryst to generate a memory if I need it. The skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. So one thing I might do in between recording sessions is just take a minute here to see how my situation with weaving and not working has sort of affected my plans. I don't want to completely... I want some level of adaptability in the playthrough. That's one of the things that's nice about this game with the randomly generated books, is that you will have different paths through the house and different paths through the Tree of Wisdoms. And you may want to nudge things in a certain way because it is still sort of a role-playing game, but on the other hand, you know, you don't really help yourself by sort of having a perfect Tree of Wisdoms in your mind and only pursuing that, because you may wind up waiting for a very long time for the skills that you need. And of course, that's a lesson I could take for myself, because what am I doing but waiting for a very specific set of circumstances before I commit things to the Tree of Wisdoms. But, right now, this is more around the lines of languages rather than anything else. So I can lend my assistant something to help, increasing their abilities. You'll still be able to use the tool. Now, I still need to pour the blue crown, so I'll do that now. I think that empties the pot. Yeah. Pour out. Pour it out. So it may not be a bad idea for me to prepare another one of those, although I don't think I have... Yeah, I don't have anything that I can use for the Tryst for. So this I may actually wind up cataloging a Baronial or Curia period book with. So there'll be two more things that I talk to the fisherman about. There'll be the water, and then I'll feed him the pheasant. It's an expensive way of boosting his abilities, but there you have it. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms, stone stories of the earth, of its forms, of dwellers living and dead. So we don't have anything to do with pyroglyphics and inks of revelation now. We need to wait on those. Better now. Okay, I am going to use this to generate some money. However, I want to be careful about it, because at some point I do want to try and level up pyroglyphics. Again, we're at the end of winter, so we're in the case where I may potentially be hit by a pneuma, and so have to do something with the lessons. Okay. Blue Crown tea, always served cold. More accurate to say, inevitably served cold. I can offer my assistant something to drink. So I'm hanging on to this Tryst just because, again, we may want to do something with the pyroglyphics, even if it is leveling up pyroglyphics itself. So, depending on what happens with the fisherman in terms of generating memories, I'll make the final decision at that point. Few flowers flourish in the depths of winter. Blue Crown is one of those few. Also, given the tea situation, I may want to... Well, one, I'll probably want to do an order with Cater and Hero, but I'm also probably going to want to take some time to brew everything, but the lessons at the moment are the priority. Alright, so we'll just sit on that. Down to the Grushians. So, let's see if I can feed them a pheasant. Offer something to eat. I can offer my assistant something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. A cold pheasant without the grape salad. Okay. Now, it might be nice to try and prepare the next salon or something like that, especially in terms of generating inks, but clearly we have other things that we need to do today, so it's not a throw... Even though I have a lot of elements of the soul tied up, it's not a throwaway day today. The one thing I'm always worried about is if I do something like a salon at the end of the season, and it's one of those ones that sort of crosses over into the next day so that my elements of the soul don't get renewed, and the thing I get hit by next is Pneuma, because there's not a lot of opportunities to renew elements of the soul in Pneuma, and that's going to be a time where I'm saddled with a whole bunch of lessons. Now, realistically, that's a pretty contrived example. Like, it can happen, but I'm really in a situation of my own making in terms of running into that kind of trouble. But still, like, it's one of these things that if I can avoid it, it would be nice to. So we'll see, again, we'll see where everything goes. We'll be able to open up the Squawkphologia, so that's nice. That actually gives us another place for a salon if I want. The sustenance has boosted their aspects appropriately. And as they used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So we will renew the shaft accordingly. Guess we can use the threepence. It is winter and the storms have tightened the seas. I'm sitting before the fire in the sweet bones with a beef and potato pasty in one hand and a hot ale posset in the other. So, we're going to talk with the fisherman to generate some memories, but the one thing I didn't do was talk about the glorious stair. Each stair tread is decorated with a quotation from the Book of Sons, so the congregation might be edified as they ascend. The quotes are worn to half legibility by the passage of all those worshipful feet, which may be why some of these quotations differ troublingly from any orthodox version. It has of course been claimed that the Sisterhood of the Knot, who first held the Isle, also held a copy of the long-suppressed Chiritic version of the book. Alright, so the impulse helps me out with leveling up Inks of Revelation. In fact, we'll commit that right away, just because there's no situation in which I would use the Inks of Revelation any other way. Oops. What am I missing here? Oh, it's just a... There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will make it suitable for higher branches on the Tree of Wisdoms. So what I may want to do after the next lesson, I may want to take some time and think about what I want to level up pyroglyphics with. So there's an argument for doing something like... So actually, let's go even further and say that if it's shapped, it's got to be something that's got forge for it. So realistically, Meniscate Reflections is the only one that's eligible by that standard. If I want to expand it a little bit further than that, Watchman's Paradoxes. However, Watchman's Paradoxes requires Sky, and I don't have anything Sky. I don't have anything with Lantern, I don't have anything with Sky, so the idea of leveling this up is kind of a non-starter. So, I guess the next question I would ask was, is there some sort of plan that I have for pyroglyphics? That's one that would go into Illumination or Ithistry, and the catch with Illumination and Ithistry is that it's really one where like, Ithistry would start at 5, and then Illumination is one that really I just need to do at the top levels. Like that one, I'll probably have a crossover to, level 7 or something like that. So I think I'm going to hold off on that. I think probably the right call here would be to put it into Meniscate Reflections. And that has implications, right? So I could, for instance, use the Old Wound in this case and then just use a Tris to do it. So I think the way I'm going to handle that is we'll wait to see how the day goes. If I don't get anything, I'll use the Old Wound with Pyroglyphics, and then I'll use the Practic Garden dummy to generate another Old Wound. This leaves me with a free Trist. So I will catalog a book with that. And in this case, let's make it a baronial period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's baronial period, roughly the 1500s to 1700s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. The skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. Better now. And I think in this case what I'll do is I'm going to restore the metal. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. But the idea here is that I'm bringing back this metal so that I can use it to earn some money at the Sweet Bones. Okay, so the Gossip doesn't do much for pyroglyphics. We're looking for Forge or Edge. But we're obviously on path. No matter what happens, we are on path to using all of the elements of the soul that we earned over the course of the Salon before the end of the day. The last question here is really just... All right, Keonad Abydos, a play dealing with the 9-year sojourn of a snow goddess in the Thracian city of Abydos by Apollo Fireweaver in English, published in 1892 Purportedly from an older Greek text. A chilly nimbus numbs my hands, a theoplasmic contamination. The tryst and this item are contaminated. So, unlucky for me. We have a new specimen for the dispensary. So, Despairing Tryst. Actually, you know what? There is one way that this helps. I can actually use this to level up Meniscate Reflections. So, the Shapt and the Tryst are now free. I guess the question is, do I want to roll the dice with the books, or do I want to... I guess I'm already earning some money here. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to roll the dice again with the Tryst. This is a little reckless, but... I'm not going to do it with the Shapt, though, and this for the simple reason that I can use this to earn some money, and it seems, at least so far, it seems to be whenever I've used metal for things that can potentially give me... in fact, things that I know will give me maladies, I've never seen the metal be affected, so it may be that metal is actually immune from the different afflictions. It seems to be that way, at least. At some point, I should probably clear out the books in here, because there are some that would be helpful for me to read. Things like, you know, A Light Through the Keyhole. But I gotta work with what's available. Horns and Ivories, I don't think we yet have. Okay, so that'll be a good one to add to the list. Obviously not today, but we'll put that on the shelf of things to read. And there's actually nothing stopping me from leveling up Meniscate Reflections, so I should be doing that right now. Consider there's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting, and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms, if you haven't already committed it. So I don't need to worry. I've used up the old wound here, but I can just generate a new one at the Practic Garden dummy with my Afflicted Tryst. So let's make some money. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. And then here we will catalog a Solar Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Solar Gothic period, roughly between the 1000s and 1500s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. I've learned something, or perhaps just remembered it. Now, we still have some memories that we can take over. So the Satisfaction and the Storm are things that I can use with the Motley Bed. So it's Forge, Rose, Moth, and Heart. And of course, we're wide open. We don't have any lessons. We don't really have anything that we're directly trying to gain right now. But I kind of like the idea of having the option of, you know, of picking some memories after at the end of the day. So we're not in any particular rush to open up the room. Night has fallen. Dawn will come soon. So now, of course, we have the option of opening up the Squawk-Phologia. The Ascendant, the edgelong Dardash, boasts of her victories over her brother enemy Tarag in the days of the Shadowless Empire. So I believe this one gives us a contradiction. And of course, extra points for Edicts Martial are always nice. Getting a Wormwood Dream would actually open up a lot of these winter rooms, even if I don't have Whist. Okay, I've learned something, or perhaps just remembered it. So, the Squawk-Phologia. Birds crowd every corner of this place, glaring at me with malevolent yellow eyes. Guano cakes the walls and feathers drift the floor. Something has drawn them here. It'll need to be dealt with. Once it has, the place will take an awful lot of cleaning. So, let's take a second here. If we click on the memory slot, so actually everything that I've got. So we've got Satisfaction, Storm, Gossip, and Regret. Let's take a quick minute here and see. I don't think any of these... So the Forge is like a little bit of an angle for the Forge with the Regret, but honestly, if we're going to try and read that, we're going to use Foresight. So against my better judgment, I think I'm going to take the Storm again. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. And I think that'll be it for tonight. So I have one other... I can actually queue that up right now. I can take my Despairing Tryst, Melancholy is the mist on the soul's water. Despair is the wolf that prowls the water's edge. Oh, right. I need to add a moon for that. Aha. So, my usual source of moon... Oh, but Ava's desk will help. There we go. So yeah, we'll, once the new season comes by, we'll have a little bit of money, we'll have another visitor, we'll see whether or not the affair of the Royal Endeavour is concluded. If it is, we will do a summary of all of the visitors that came by. And then, again, we have a little bit of freedom, so we do want to do another salon if we can. However, it did take us a lot of effort to get the salon ready to go, so I should be clear on what I'm trying to accomplish and whether or not it's something that I can do within the time allowed. Again, I think it's a good one to try, but if the trade-off, let's say, comes between doing a salon and perhaps trying to... I don't know, like trying to get some of those skills that will allow me to go higher up the Tree of Wisdoms. You know, I want to be mindful of those priorities too. But again, we'll see where it all goes. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.